Good day, students. Today, we will be answering some problems that deal with Boyle's Law and Charles' Law. Hopefully, these problems will help you answer your activities on Boyle's Law and Charles' Law. So, let's start with this problem. At constant temperature, the volume of a gas was found to be 200 cubic centimeters at a pressure of 750 millimeter mercury. If the pressure of the gas is doubled, what will be the new volume of the gas? So, simple analysis muna tayo. Sabi dito, constant temperature. Remember, for Boyle's law, we are dealing with pressure and volume at constant temperature. So, that is already a hint for us that this problem is Boyle's law because in the future, pwedeng hindi nakalagay na Boyle's law yan. Let's also check the given quantities. We also have 200 cubic centimeters. So, what is that? That is our V1. Kasi sabi natin dyan, volume of a gas was found to be. So, initially, that is our volume. So, how do we know that is our volume? Students, we can identify the given quantity based on the unit. So, tatandaan natin yung mga units nila para alam natin kung siya ba ay volume, siya ba ay pressure, or siya ba ay temperature. Let's write that on our given. V1 is equal to 200 cubic centimeters. Also, our pressure 1 would be 750 millimeter mercury. Okay? In our previous discussion, we have identified millimeter mercury as one of the units for pressure. Okay? So, bakit siya naging P1? Kasi, nakalagay naman dyan, aside from millimeter mercury being a unit of pressure, nakalagay naman dyan, at a pressure of 750 millimeter mercury. Now, let's identify the final state of the gas. Sabi dyan, if the pressure of the gas is doubled, when we say doubled, it means that we multiply our pressure by 2. Okay, so 750 times 2, that would be our P2, and that would be equal to, tama, 1,500 millimeter mercury. Let's write that here in our given. Okay, so remember class, no? Here in Boyle's law, we are not really very strict on the units unless number 1, your teacher specified the unit kung paano nyo i-express ang inyong answer. And number 2, kung ano yung given units, yun din dapat yung magre-reflect sa ating final answer. So for example here, we have our V1 in cubic centimeters. You are expected to have your V2 also in cubic centimeters. If your P1 is in millimeter mercury, your P2 should also be in millimeter mercury. If you are using other units, then you will be expressing your other value in those units. Just be careful lang, dapat alam natin kung ano ang pressure at ano ang volume. Now, what is the required? Okay, ang nawawala ay yung volume 2 kasi ang tanong, what will be the new volume of the gas? So we now have our given, we now have our required, we can do our solving. Okay, so we can immediately plug in the values. For our V1, 200 centimeter cube or cubic centimeters. Then for our P2, we have 1,500 millimeter mercury and V2 is missing. So, dito kayo na bahala kung paano nyo isosolve si V2, pero ang ipapakita ko ngayon dito ay kung paano yung pinaka step by step. So what I am doing here is dividing both sides by 1,500 millimeter mercury to cancel it, eliminate V2, and use my calculator. Okay. 750 times 200, okay, divided by 1,500. That would be 100 cubic centimeters. Okay, our final answer would be 100 cubic centimeters. Okay, now that we have obtained our answer of 100 cubic centimeters, medyo i-analyze lang natin yung naging answer natin, no? So, remember, our pressure is doubled from 750 to 1,500 millimeter mercury. What did you notice in our volume? What happened from V1 to V2? Okay, so we have 200 to 100. In other words, the volume became half of the original. So that is being discussed in Boyle's law. So if you haven't studied Boyle's law yet, you can watch my video. The link I have posted on top. Okay, so there I have discussed that in Boyle's law, at constant temperature, pressure will be inversely proportional with volume. So therefore, if pressure increased, your volume should decrease. Pag tumaas si pressure, dapat bababa si volume. So you can use that simple analysis whenever you are solving, because if there is a chance that your pressure increased and your volume also increased when you are solving Boyle's law, then there is something wrong with your solution. You have to recheck. All right? So there, let's go to our next problem. So Erica wanted to buy a helium tank to fill up all the balloons she needed for a birthday party. If the 40.00-liter helium at 12.30 psi will be compressed down to a volume of 5.60 liters, what would be the final pressure of the helium? Again, this is a Boyle's law problem, and here we are using different units. So PSI stands for pounds per square inch, and that is also a unit of pressure. Wag po kayong malilito dyan. In volume, we have liters. That is also a unit for volume. I think that is more common than the cubic centimeter that we have used a while ago. Nevertheless, sabi ko nga, kung ano yung unit na given natin sa P1 at V1, yun din dapat ang unit natin sa P2 at V2. So let's write our given. V1 is 40.00 liters at 12.30 psi. So that would be our P1. And it was said to be compressed down to a volume of 5.60 liters. So ano ibig sabihin ng compressed? Nag-decrease dapat ang ating volume from 40 liters to 5.60 liters. So V2 is 5.60 liters. For the question, we are asked what would be the final pressure of the helium. So P2 is missing. Again, for our equation, we will be using Boyle's law because that would be P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2. Let's solve. So we again substitute our known values. Our P1 is 12.30 psi. Our V1 is 40.00 liters. Our P2 is missing, and our V2 is 5.60 liters. So what I will be doing here is to divide both sides by 5.60 liters. And now let's operate the values on the left side. So we have 12.30 psi times 40 liters. Actually, kahit wala ng 00, pero lalagyan na natin. Divided by 5.60. We will be getting 87.86 PSI. Bakit PSI ang unit natin? Kasi ang pressure 1 unit natin ay PSI, so ang pressure 2 unit natin ay PSI din dapat. Students, don't forget the units kasi your numbers, your answers are meaningless without the units. Alright? So I hope you have learned or understood Boyle's law at this point. You can use these problems as a pattern for answering your other activities. So let's go now to Charles' law. Unlike Boyle's law, Charles' law relates volume and temperature at constant pressure. So according to the law, your volume and temperature will be directly proportional provided that the pressure is constant. However, it is very important that your temperature must be expressed in the correct units. Otherwise, you will not arrive at the correct answer. So, ano ba yung units na yon? Temperature must always be in Kelvin. So, if your temperature is expressed in degrees Celsius, you have to convert first. In our case here, our problem reads, at constant pressure, neon gas contracts from 2.00 liters to 0.75 liters. The initial temperature is 298 Kelvin. Find the final temperature of the gas in Kelvin. So in this case, our temperature is already in Kelvin, so there's no use for us to convert kasi naka-Kelvin na siya. Okay, all right. So let's now go to the analysis of our given quantities. So, ano ba ibig sabihin ng contracts? Pag sinabing contracts, volume decreases. Parang kanina compresses down. So, volume decreases din yon. So, ibig sabihin, we have our V2 which is less than V1. So, our V1 is equal to 2.00 liters. And our V sub 2 is equal to 0.75 liter. So, nakita natin, no, parehas ng unit si V1 at si V2. Okay, so we are given here the temperature of 298 Kelvin. Sabi ko nga kanina, no need to convert kasi ang unit natin ay Kelvin na. And we are looking for T2. So our Charles law equation is V1 over T1 is equal to V2 over T2. Okay, let's use that in our problem solving. Substitute the values that we know. V1 is 2.00 liters. T1 is 298 Kelvin. V2 is 0.75 liter. And T2 is missing. Medyo tricky lang ito, no? Kasi T2 is in the denominator. So, I will be presenting you one way on how to extract the denominator. Kasi you can easily rearrange the equation if you are very used to solving math equations. However, there are sometimes na medyo nakakalito siya. So, medyo long way yung gagamitin natin ngayon para lumabas si T2. Tingnan natin, no, si T2 ay nasa baba. Kailangan pumunta siya sa numerator. So, ano ba yung way para magawa natin yon? What we can do is to multiply both sides. When I say both sides, the left and the right side, by T2 times 298 Kelvin over 2.00 liters. So, ginawa natin sa kanan yan, ganun din dapat sa kabila. Question, ma'am, bakit po yan ang napili nyong i-multiply sa left and the right? Ang goal kasi natin is si T2 ay number 1 pumunta sa numerator at number 2 siya ay matira or ma-eliminate lang. So si T2 ay dapat lumipat sa kabila kasi there's no way na pupunta sa numerator ito. Okay, mamaya may papakita ko sa inyong technique na pwede siyang pumunta sa numerator ng madalian pero mamaya na yung shortcut natin. Dito muna tayo sa long cut or long way. So, dahil si T2, kailangan natin siyang mapunta sa numerator, imumultiply natin siya both sides para makancel yung T2 sa kanan at pumunta siya sa kaliwa. O, diba? Nasa numerator na siya. Tapos, dapat si T2, siya lang yung matitira. Dapat mawala tong 2.00 liters at saka 298 Kelvin. So, para mawala yan, kailangan mag-multiply tayo ng values na magka-cancel sa kanila. Kung si 298 Kelvin ay nasa baba, dapat mag-multiply tayo ng 298 Kelvin sa numerator. Ganon din si 2.00 liters. Dahil nasa numerator siya, kailangan natin mag-multiply ng 2.00 liters sa denominator. So, yan, na-cancel na. Rewrite lang natin, T2 is equal to 0.75 liter times 298 Kelvin over 2.00 liters. Let's use our calculator to solve for T2. 0.75 times 298 divided by 2.00. So, our answer would be 111.75 Kelvin. Is your T2 greater than or less than your T1? Correct, less than. Why? Because your volume decreased. Therefore, your temperature should also decrease. That is a characteristic of Charles' law. It tells us that temperature and volume are directly proportional. Ibig sabihin, when volume increase, your temperature will also increase. If your volume decreases, then your temperature also decreases. Don't forget to write the unit. And don't forget also that Kelvin has no degrees. Ang may degree lang is yung Celsius at yung Fahrenheit. Kelvin does not have any degree, so we just write the letter K. Alright, let's have the final question or problem. Nitrogen gas expands from 5 cubic centimeters to 9.30 cubic centimeters. The final temperature is 50 degrees Celsius. Determine the initial temperature of the gas in degrees Celsius. You may use the formula K is equal to degrees Celsius plus 273. You may have encountered this conversion factor in the previous lessons that we have. I advise that you watch my video on Boyle's law and Charles' law. You also have some practice problems there which can help you identify the two laws. Sabi dito, expands. Kanina, meron tayong contracts. When we say expands, volume increases. That is already a hint for you that V2 is greater than V1. Just like in our given, nakalagay dyan, 5.00 cubic centimeters to 9.30 cubic centimeters. Alright? Let's now write the given quantities. Medyo mahirap lang tong problem na to, no? We need an extra step because your temperature is given in degrees Celsius. Kaya, kailangan nyo siyang i-convert sa Kelvin. Tapos, pag nakuha natin yung final answer in Kelvin, kailangan natin ibalik ulit sa degrees Celsius kasi yun ang hinahanap ng problem. Again, sabi ko nga kanina, the unit that you will be expressing your answer in will depend on the problem or the requirements of your teacher. So, our V1 is 5 cubic centimeters, V2, 9.30 cubic centimeters, and our T2 is 50 degrees Celsius plus 273. 50 plus 273, kahit nga i-mental calculate nyo lang yan, kaya na yan, 323 Kelvin. We are looking for T1. Sabi nga sa question, determine the initial temperature. For our equation, we will use V1 over T1 is equal to V2 over T2. That is the mathematical equation of Charles' law. Solution, substitute known values. 5 cubic centimeters over T1, which is missing, is equal to V2, 9.30 cubic centimeters over T2, which is equal to 323 Kelvin. So, ito yung sinasabi kong shortcut, no? Si T1 ay nasa ilalim. Pwede natin gawin yung ginawa natin kanina sa previous problem, pero merong shortcut para umibabaw siya. Paano ang gagawin natin? Tandaan lang natin, since there is an equality sign, then what you do on the left, you also do on the right. So, if we flip the left side, we need to also flip the right side to make the equation correct. Alright, so flip the left side, T1 over 5.00 cubic centimeters is equal to, let's also flip the right side. That would be 323 Kelvin over 9.30 cubic centimeters. Ngayon, kailangan si T1 na lang matira sa kaliwa. So, what we can do is multiply both sides by 5.00 cubic centimeters. When I say both sides, multiply the left and the right para makancel siya. And therefore, we will be having T1 is equal to 323 Kelvin divided by 9.30 cubic centimeters times 5.00 cubic centimeters. Let's use our calculator to solve that. 323 Kelvin times 5.00 divided by 9.30. We will be getting 173.66 Kelvin. However, this is not yet our final answer because the problem wants us to determine the temperature in degrees Celsius. So, to get our temperature in degrees Celsius, we just need to subtract 273 from our Kelvin temperature. Medyo i-adjust lang natin ang ating solution kasi kulang na tayo sa space. So this formula is a rearrangement of the formula you can see on top. So that would be 173.66 Kelvin minus 273. And you will be getting negative 99.34 degrees Celsius. Our final answer is therefore negative 99.34 degrees Celsius. The temperature is below zero, negative siya. That means that the temperature is cold. Okay, malamig. Alright? So there you go. I hope that you have learned a lot today in our practice problems. And I hope that you can use this to answer your activities for week 1, which deals with Boyle's Law and Charles' Law. If you learned something from this video or like it, like my presentation, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. See you in my next videos. Bye!